In a world flooded with information and communications, you would think everyone would be able to learn all they need. Just the opposite. There's so much information and so little effort to help people make sense of it. Our guest speaker, Seth Derner, co-founded Vivayic to help companies, nonprofits, and other organizations do a better job of providing meaningful learning experiences that help people perform and succeed. His 20-member virtual company serves clients including the World Bank, Monsanto, and even the Nebraska Ag in the Classroom. We have a short introduction video describing what Vivayic does.
We all get the question, whether we're on a plane, we're talking to our friends and family, and we know what we do, and we know our clients love what we do. We just have to do a better job of more succinctly being able to answer the question, what does Vivayic do?
Vivayic designs learning solutions.
We help increase human potential by taking these abstract concepts and making them concrete, and then these become knowledge and information that make employees better for their organizations.
We work with a lot of experts who have some knowledge or some subject matter expertise, and we help them make that knowledge accessible and usable and meaningful.
It's about driving outcomes by having real clear objectives in what we're doing.
Design an experience.
Yeah, and then designing around that.
This is where I think I was intended to be, working with a team of people who are committed to this idea that people are worth investing in.
And I think that's what draws me to the job that I do. Is I really think it's important to help people, and I always feel good when I've made someone better.
I've always loved the idea of solving problems and appealing to people's need to learn or communicate.
Depending on the client, I'm always coming up with a different way to present something. The information's always different, so it's not just the same thing every time.
One thing I love are the relationships we make with our customers, getting to know them on a personal level as well as a professional level, what they do, and get a good understanding of who they are.
A lot of people say that teaching and learning is both an art and a science. And I love that I get to work at the intersection of something that is both an art and a science.
Just helping people become better and helping our clients really achieve their goals. That's the thing that gets me most excited about working here.
At the higher level, it's more about helping figure out what is your organization trying to accomplish. And so if this is where your people are and this is where they need to be, what is it that you can do? What experience can you give them? What opportunity can you provide? What kind of systems or what kind of accountability do you have to have in place to make that happen?
I really love We Honor Learning. I think it really speaks to our values approach to everything.
Whether it's making a content outline or putting the finishing touches on the deliverable, I am thinking, what is that person that's going to be sitting here? What's their experience like?
We have the design rubric. We have these principles that we ascribe to, and we look at our products and we say, do they fit these things that we aspire to make sure in every one of our learning products? So I mean, I love making epic learning experiences.
Doug's making the next Star Wars.
Pleasantly surprised. Wow.
I love working with the Vivayic team, and my favorite part about working with them is the ideas that just come out during our conversations.
I was like, wow, why doesn't every company operate like this? It's about loving what you do and doing it because you enjoy it, and it's just this genuine passion for helping people learn.
To me, that's the bigger picture of what we do, is we help organizations be really smart about solving their problems through their people. And that shows up in tools and in reports and in consulting and giving them people strategies and ideas.
Because it can look cool and be the latest whiz-bang technology, but if people aren't learning, then it doesn't really matter.
Learning is a really serious business to us.
This is such an honor for me to be here in front of you all to share thoughts. Because when Tom called and asked, I said, Tom, I don't know what we're doing. Like, we're just making this up every day. I don't know. We just got here. We just ended up in this place. I'm like, I don't know that I have any real wisdom to share. And he's like, that's the point. Like, It's about the experience and what did you learn from here to there. So this is, like I said, this is a real honor. First of all, Paul, I grew up in Wheeler County. I grew up on a cow-calf ranch, and Paul was like, one of the legends, one of the people that we all knew about. And so it's an honor to be in your presence, and just congratulations on what you built here. We have a couple of your graduates on our team, and I've gotten to know Tom very well. And gosh, and to be an alumni of the University of Nebraska, I spent the afternoon talking with a number of students. And I just, I drove home to put on the tie and come here, and I thought to myself, my God, there was nothing like that when I was here 20 years ago. Nothing. And like the things that you all are talking about, the ideas that you have, the conversations that you've been through, like how much passion and clarity you have about where you want to go, I think, my God, we were lucky if we could articulate, let alone, where the next party was, let alone, it was about jobs. And, I'm a child of the farm crisis of the 80s, and our whole world was, get out of ag, do something where there's security. So when I came to the College of Ag, it was one of the smallest enrollments in quite some time, and all of us were these shell-shocked, like just try and find a job where that pays well, that your family can survive and live on. That was the mindset. Like anyone who was thinking about going back to the farm or who was going to start their own business, you're like, oh my God, are you crazy? Do you not know what it's like out there? So to see the students and to hear the conversations, I'm like, man, this I can't wait to see in 20, 30 years just the crop of ideas and businesses and that come out of that. And I hope, I'm going to put a little plug in here for whoever, anyway, that when you reach a level of success and you get a chance later in your life to look back and reflect and say, how did that happen? To say, how do I reinvest to make that happen for the next generation? Because it's because of people like Paul that you all had the opportunity, and one of you may be the person who provides some kid you don't know 40 years from now an opportunity that's going to propel them to do great things that they didn't know was possible. So anyway, I'm pretty jazzed to be here. I had to rewrite my, because I have about 4.5 hours of stuff that I came in with, and I'm like, I got to get the list down to 2 hours, and I promise I'll just skip a lot. So that's the one thing. I'm an old high school teacher, and the kids they were so thankful there was a bell, because I could have just kept on going. I just got into it, and I assumed they all got into it, and we just went. We just had a great time. And that's a little bit like how we run our business. So let me start. Let me give a little context. 2 years ago, I got invited to this event. Haley Lechtenberg was an intern of ours. Some of you may know Haley. She graduated, now married, has a beautiful little girl. And we were looking for an intern. I actually student taught under her dad, Russ Lechtenberg, when he was an ag teacher at Butte High School. So she knew me, and she, out of the blue, was like, hey, I need an internship. And we're like, sure. And lo and behold, this girl shows up, who I remember as kind of a bratty little 7-year-old, showed up as this like mature, driven, I'm like, holy cow, where did this come from? Like, I know your parents are awesome, but how did you reach this? And she told all about Tom Fields and all these conversations, and I'm like, I gotta understand what this Engler thing's about. So she invited me to come to this event 2 years ago, and I sat there and I saw this, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And I can't remember his name, but he spoke about I watched it the other day, but I can't remember his name, but his business was about, farmers' data, and about, creating kind of this box where farmers could put their data if they wanted to sell their data. And it was a really fascinating business model, because I love like ideas that are way out there, and I think technology is going to change, and information is going to change our world. But he talked about how, he took on investors, and he was hoping to, get it really big and then sell out. And I just kind of struck something inside of me, and I got really passionate, because I told Haley, I said, I want to get a meeting with Tom, because I want your students to know there's other ways to be an entrepreneur. because that was one of my frustrations being, starting a business. I go to these entrepreneurship things. I was part of a Gallup Entrepreneur Acceleration Program that the governor came and spoke. And the thing that he said from the front of the room was, we hope, that we have a number of you who in 10 years we can say you have 400 employees and this many dollars in revenue. And that's okay. I get where the governor's coming from. I get the need for economic development and big companies that create lots of jobs. But there's other ways to have a company, and all of them are equally important. And how we measure the success of that doesn't have to be with how big you are, how many employees you have. There are lots of other ways to measure success. And so I said, Tom, I asked Haley got me a meeting, and I brought this book. We met at Bread and Cup, just right over there. And I said, Tom, just do me one favor. Would you please read this book, Small Giants? And the subtitle is Companies That Choose to Be Great, Not Just Big. You can be big. It's okay to be big, but first be great. And so Tom, I think humored me, but he did read it and called me up, and that's where this conversation started. And so anyway, this has been Tom Engler program has been a blessing in my life. It's been a huge benefit to our team, and I'm just excited to share a few of our experiences and thoughts tonight. So. The video did a pretty good job of explaining what our company is. I was looking back, I'm like, that was only a few years ago, and now we can't fit in that room anymore. We've got 20 people, and again, we aren't trying to get big, but it's hard to tell our clients, no, we don't want to take your business. So we've got kind of this, we hire when it hurts, and it hurt. So, but we have a great set of clients, and the video explained it well. The need that we're solving for organizations. There is so much information out there. Everybody thinks, gosh, why aren't people smarter about this? Because it's all out there. All that information's out there. Yeah, do you know, the problem is there's so much information out there. People don't know what's important, and they don't know how to make sense of it all. And so what we help organizations do is think about how do you not just provide information, but really be thoughtful about designing experiences in a way that people can make sense of information and start to apply it in real meaningful ways that impact the ability of your organization to do what it needs to do. If you need to sell more seed, let's figure out how you equip salespeople with the kind of skills they need to go sell more seed, not just know more stuff. So that's what we sit down with our clients and help solve those kinds of problems using training and development and learning as kind of the mode of which that happens. And we have a ton of fun doing it. Because it's, when I left this institution, my passion was around teaching. I was going to be the very best ag teacher the world had ever seen. And for about 2.5 years, I threw everything I could to make that happen. Gained about 80 pounds. I slept about 4 hours a night. I went from 30 kids in a program to 150. I was teaching 2 classes on distance learning, so I had kids in 4 other schools. We had a relationship with a Catholic school across town because they had a lot of ag kids. So, come grading time, I'm sending I was tried to send reports to 5 different schools. It was crazy. We had so much fun. It was so awesome. And I love teaching. I don't love grading papers. I don't love reporting to administrators. And what I learned is I could be a really awesome teacher. And at 3 years on the pay scale, I'm still making less than $20,000 a year. And that, you just start to say to yourself, wow, how, that it starts to inspire you to say, am I worth more? And is there other work I could do where I could do the thing I love to do, but do it in a different way that rewards me for being successful? Kind of the American dream, the free enterprise. We live in the greatest country in the world because we get to pursue the things that we love to do and make money at it at the same time if we're smart at it. That is awesome. So that's kind of the background of our journey of where it came from. Yeah. So let me catch my breath, actually look down. I'm 2 lines in, I've got 45 to go, so I'm going to have to rearrange here. It's all right. I always like to help kids be successful on the final test. One of my goals, because learning should be fun. Testing is just make sure that you and I have something to show mom and dad and the principal that we actually learned something. So this is the final answer to the test. It's all about culture. We'll get to that later. All right. Oh, I don't want to show you that. Let me share a couple of stories about the beginning. A couple people have asked, where's the name come from? So when we got started, so my personal story is teaching for 4 years here in Nebraska, took a job writing curriculum for the National FFA organization in Indianapolis. It was a chance to make more money and get to hopefully impact a lot more people and do work. The work that I love to do is the design of the curriculum. As you can tell, I'm not awesome in front of a room. I have a lot of fun. I'm not the world's best teacher, you guys, but I love the chance to do that. So I went out and took that job for 4 years, and we did all sorts of fun and cool things because this was, turn of the century, technology. Man, we had the internet. Just think what we could do with the internet if we could push information out over the internet and people could learn on a computer without having to send human beings out to all these states. Just think how much better we could make teachers. Just think how much more stuff we could put out to young leaders. And we cooked up all sorts of ideas. And it was so much fun because we got to work with all these different agencies, technology companies that were kind of on the very cutting edge of figuring all this stuff out. So 3 years into working at National FA, we had a change in leadership, had a new boss come in. Thought, okay, I love the guy who was there before. I learned so much from his leadership. New guy comes in, give him a chance. Immediately, first thing he says is, we're driving a car and we're all going to look through the windshield, not the rear view mirror. So, we're not going to look at the past. I'm like, okay, well, I get that. You're the leader. What that meant was, you're going to do things his way. Don't care how things used to be done. And his way was a different way of doing things. I'm just going to leave it at that. The other thing I'll tell you is my code name was Freedom 14, which means I was the 14th person who's able to escape the organization because of the kind of how toxic and how unfun it was I kept telling people, I'm like, we work in the coolest building in the country. Like, we get to spend our whole day thinking about how to help kids in FFA chapters be better leaders. Like, there is no more fun job on the planet, and yet this is the most miserable place to work right now. So that's hard to hold on to. So in a way, I was running away from that and said, I love this stuff. I think I want to do more of this. I don't know how. So I took a soft money job, way to get back to Nebraska, worked for the Coordinating Commission, Secondary Ed, and during that time, one of the firms that we had hired to work for us at FFA, I was helping them win a proposal to do a big 3.5-year project for another nonprofit. So I was coaching them about, in education and kind of help them sell it. They won the project. I was excited for them. Then they come back and said, hey, we can't really do this. Can you come work for us? Now, I'd just been through this horrible experience working for this leader I didn't care for, and I could see some indications, like the company didn't want to work for him. There were some values that they held that I didn't hold. So I said, thanks, but I think I'm going to find what I really want to do. And they came back and said, how about you start your own company and we'll subcontract for you? Now, that was an interesting proposition because we had 3 years of guaranteed revenue, enough revenue that it covered about 60% of our salaries that we could, and they had other kinds of projects that they said, hey, we can subcontract other things, and thought, this is not a bad deal. It's a safe way to make a jump. And for a guy who had no coaching about being an entrepreneur and who was told from the time he was 6 years old, job security, good job, good security, don't put it all out there. So this was an easy way. What happened is that became a double-edged sword because when you have that kind of funding right from the beginning, you get a little, you're not as hungry. And one of our mentors, he kept telling us, hey, those first couple of years of starting your business, that's rice and beans, beans and rice. There's no fluff money for pretty websites and all this other stuff. Like, you are bare bones growing the business, but I had one of our original business partners She believed if we lived like if you envision how you want things to be, that's what's going to happen. So we spent money like we were going to have it. Year and a half in, $160,000 in debt, with this huge contract still, it became really clear that we didn't have any effing clue what we were doing running a business. Okay? Had a banker pretty much flat out tell me that. So at that point, there was a messy divorce. And so those of you who are thinking about partners, let me just tell you this. Getting a divorce from a business partner is just as painful, I would imagine. I've never been through a family divorce and never will. But that was painful. And so, having gone through that now, would have really thought a lot harder about who I jumped in that business with, without this kind of real clear sense of what are we about, what do we really believe at our core that we share as values. Luckily, one of the other guys, I said, hey, here's the deal. With this partner out, Doug, my co-founder, the other guy, said, here's the deal. Let's take the company. If you'll agree to be 50% partner, I said, you get half the debt. Yay! I said, but I'll commit to stick with this if you'll commit to stick with this, because I really think that we can make this happen. So $160,000 in debt, we buy out. I actually wrote her a check so that we could finish this up and move on. That was 2 years in. You get really focused on just doing things that pay the bills when you're in that situation. But that was good for us. We needed that. We needed to figure out, how does this thing make money? And there are things that we aspired to do that we thought, we can't do it in the way that we would like to, but what else could we do? Who else could we do it for in a way that would actually help us both run a business and do the work that we love to do? So, when I look back now, I tell this story, like, in those days, our banker went and advocated for us. This was also at the turn of the recession, 2008. Our banker was advocating to basically keep us afloat, to let us continue to operate, to see if we could dig ourselves out of a hole. And I remember it was very rigid. Once a quarter, I was in his office for a half a day going through our financials, and we would be talking explicitly about where we were, where we thought we'd be. And at most, I maybe got a bottle of water, a cup of coffee. That happened for about 6 quarters. Then that first year, we made a little bit of money. And then, it was a little more friendly conversation, like, hey, Seth, welcome, come on in. 4 quarters after that, our first year, we made a decent-sized profit. Then, all of a sudden, he calls and says, hey, why don't I take you out to lunch? I'm like, holy cow, this happens? Your banker takes you to lunch? Of course, when I look at how much we paid them to give us money, I'm like, you could probably afford a lunch or two here and there. But I also appreciate him not shutting us down at our darkest days. What I learned is that there was a lot I needed to know, and he was one of the people who was willing to make the investment and help connect us with other people to learn how to run a business so that we could pursue our passion. And that's the thing. If you have a cause, if you have a mission, but you don't have a business model around it, go find a way to volunteer. Go find a way to be an advocate. But if you're an entrepreneur, there's got to be that's the foundation. There's got to be a business model behind it that works. And within that, then, how do you pursue your passion to make that happen? So that's a little bit of the backstory. Now, I can't not be in front of a room full of people and do a little teacher work on you. So coming to you soon, hopefully, if my 2 volunteers, I don't know that they are. So coming to you soon is going to be a couple of pieces of paper and a marker. So pop quizzes are great for both attention and retention of information. So we're going to do a couple of pop quiz questions. Go ahead and pass out. Just take one sheet of paper and then fold it in half. Pass it down. There'll be markers coming your way. We'll do
when you get that, I'll have you, we're going to do a group quiz. So you'll write the answer, you'll hold it up, and then we'll get to grade each other in public. These are my favorite kinds of quizzes. I know they're yours too. All right, you should have like a 4-page book if you fold it in half. So on the first page, you're going to write in a real big, you're just going to write true, a T for true or F for false. Here's your quiz question. True or false? All of these are examples of entrepreneurship. So this is either all true or something in here is false. You patent a new design and license it to others for commercial use. That's entrepreneurship. You buy franchise right for a geographic area and you run the stores according to their corporate guidelines. You develop a new product and have taken on investors to finance development and marketing, and the investors own a majority of the shares. You work for a family business with one other employee and you plan to buy it out from your parents over the next 10 years. You start a nonprofit, recruit the board of directors to help fundraise your efforts. True or false? All these are examples of entrepreneurship. When you have your answer, go ahead and do a big T or a big F. Some of you are still waiting for markers. All right. I think we got a lot of people. If you are ready, we'll go ahead and hold it up. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, look around, friends and neighbors. All right, a little dissent, but so, thank you. If you'd asked me 15 years ago, what's an entrepreneur, I would have said somebody who starts a new business, owns it, runs it. What I've learned is there's lots of things that fit in this spectrum of being an entrepreneur. You come up with a great idea. The fact that you license it to somebody else to go actually produce it and sell it, does that make you're still making money in terms of as an entrepreneur. A franchise right. One of our good friends, they own franchise rights for restaurants. And I think, gosh, is that really entrepreneurship? Like, it's not their brand, it's not their product, they're being told how to market, they're using all the corporate training materials, but it is their money, and they have latitude of how much success or not. So, I look at all these, and I say to myself, I could make an argument those are all entrepreneurship. I could make an argument that some of those aren't what I would consider entrepreneurship. The point that I would make is your job is to define for you what you want entrepreneurship to be. For me, if I had investors that own shares in our company, then I had to go report every quarter, that wouldn't feel like entrepreneurship to me. Because then I'm not working for what I think is the best thing for my company. I would be working for shareholders to make sure they got a return on their investment. Now, the technical definition, you're still an entrepreneur. In my world, I'm only an entrepreneur if I get to control the direct. If I told my team tomorrow, hey, team, tomorrow we're going to go in the business of making sprinkler heads. Guess what? Well, Doug owns 50%. I have to convince Doug first. If I convince Doug, guess what? We'd be making sprinkler heads. We'd probably lose our keisters, but that's the kind of ability I have, the freedom I have as an entrepreneur. You, as thinking about what kind of entrepreneur you want to be, what do you want to have control of, and what are you okay not being in control of? Because that dictates a lot of the path that you choose as an entrepreneur. And these are lessons that we didn't learn until we had to bump into those questions. When we were kind of at our darkest day down here, and we were starting to make money, we had a few people come and offer to buy us out. Let me tell you what, after having really hard conversations with bankers for a year and a half, to have somebody swoop in and say, hey, guess what, we'll buy you, erase the debt, you just have to work for us for 3 years, we're going to pay you a great salary. That was really tempting. I walked out of a hotel room in St. Louis and had a really hard conversation with Doug that says, hey, Doug, I just need to know where you are. Like, if we go that way, we can make it work. But I need to tell you, I believe that we can make this happen. But you don't know those, it wasn't in our 10-year business plan to say, hey, on year 4, when we're, this far underwater but starting to make money, go out and solicit somebody to buy the company. That wasn't in our plan. So we had to make a decision at that point, what do we want to do? And that's when you start getting clarity of, well, what kind of entrepreneur are we? Are we the work for other people kind? Are we the do it ourselves kind? And that's the questions that you all will have to decide as well. One of my favorite quotes, actually, it's a piece of scripture out of Psalms, and it's one of the most memorable. I have a real hard time focusing sometimes because I'm always thinking about other stuff. But this one particular sermon, I remember very clearly because it so spoke to me, because I'm always, my Gallup themes are futuristic and ideation, so I just can't shut my brain off. But I always want to know and focus. That's the third one. So I'm always like, where are we headed? What's the future look like? What's the big idea? And he tells the scripture out of Psalms where he says, you will provide a lamp unto my feet. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And his point was, he didn't say a beacon. He didn't say provide daylight. He said a lamp so you can see the next few steps. That's all you get. You only get to make decisions about the next couple of steps. You can have all the hopes and dreams and wishes you want to down the road, but the only clarity you have about the decisions you really get to make are the next couple. And you have to decide in the moment, do I make this, do I go this direction, or do I go this direction? And I think that's very true of entrepreneurs is, we all have these plans. One of my favorite essays out of a book called Rework is planning is guessing. If you'd have asked me 10 years ago, what will Vivayic be doing? How would I have been able to tell you, well, we're going to be doing these integrated e-learning modules where we tie, because that technology didn't exist. I couldn't have predicted the clients we're working with. All I knew is that we thought we had an idea of a need out there, and we kept pursuing that and trying to figure that out. So that's your job, is where do you want to go, and having a sense, but then really just deciding what's the next couple of steps. All right, question number 2. This one's an easy. It's multiple choice. This is for you Ag Econ folks. I fully expect you to get this one correctly. Which is the correct formula to calculate your 3-year revenue growth? All right? So if you were to say, last 3 years, what was your revenue growth? Is it A, B, C, or D? If you have no clue, find someone smart about business and ask them to help you. If they don't have a clue, just leave it blank and I'll pretend I didn't see that. All right, so write it down. Which one is the correct formula to calculate your 3-year revenue growth? 1, 2, 3, raise it up. One in the back. Oh, good. A, yes, A, 3-year revenue growth. Phew. Some of you came from an accounting test. I know you did because you told me today you had one tonight, so you should have got this. Revenue growth. If you want to make the Inc. 5,000 list, and that's in small businesses, that's this, the Inc. 500, the Inc. 5,000 is the kind of publication of like fastest growing and ergo the coolest small businesses in the country. So if you want to make it, it's based on your 3-year revenue growth, and your revenues have to be over $2 million to qualify. So using this model, that's how they calculate it. It's a very simple, straightforward number. So using this model, our revenue growth on last year's list would have put us at about number 3,040, which, considering the tens of thousands of small businesses out there, that's pretty good, 114% growth over 3 years. Let me let you in on a secret, and we're going to apply this year because I think we'll make the list. Let me give you a secret, a little secret. I don't care. I don't care if we make the list or not. But what I had one of my mentors tell me is, it makes your people proud. So do it just because your team is like, look, I'm a part of a successful organization. Do you know why I don't care about that number? Because all that number represents is growth. And if that's my only measure of success, then there are 3,000 companies better than we are. The best company on the list last year had a growth rate of 849 100,849% growth. What the hell would you do with a company growing at 100,000% growth over 3 years? You couldn't pay me enough money to be a part of a company growing that fast. Yet that's how we measure success, is how fast are we growing. So I tell you what, if you want to sleep at night, if you want to be able to have pride in what you do, find numbers that matter to you and use those numbers to measure your success. We're going to use this number to apply for a award because I think our people will like the acknowledgement. But here, let me tell you a few of the numbers I care about. Number one, 4.46. 2 times a year, we do an employee engagement survey. It's on a 1 to 5 scale. We measure 23 indicators. Questions like, I have people at work who care about me. I get to do meaningful work. I think the benefits package at Vivayic, is a good package. Questions like that. Just, your basic kind of employee engagement survey. Our lowest score on average as a company on a 5-point scale is 4.46. That means that only on 1 indicator out of 23 do we have more people just going agree instead of strongly agree. Do you know what that tells me? Our people love to work at our company. They're super duper happy. That number is really important to me because while we're client services and I need clients to be happy, guess who is more important to me that is happy and engaged? My people. Because when my people aren't happy and engaged, guess where that shows up? In front of my clients. So, yes, I need my clients to be satisfied, but that will not happen unless my people are engaged, they love their work. So we work really hard. Anytime we see any indication that something's going awry, we figure that out because that number is super important to me because it leads to the next number. Every year we do a survey of our clients just saying, hey, what's important to you? How are we doing? Give us really honest feedback. One of the questions on that survey is how likely are you to work with Vivayic next year? Because we don't work on retainer. We're not an agency. You don't hire Vivayic. Well, you could. We'd love to. If you'd like to hire Vivayic to do all your learning services for the next 5 years, we'd love that. But mostly we work on projects. We bid a fee. We do a project. We complete it, we're done. And if that's all you need, then we go away. And clients like that. So we ask the question, how likely are you to work with us next year? 96% will definitely work with us next year. None of them have an obligation to, but 96% of our clients, we had almost 30-some of our clients complete the survey, definitely plan to work with us. That doesn't happen unless I have employees who are doing such a freaking good job that our clients love the results that they're getting. So those numbers are really important. Other numbers, 3. We have 3 interns that we hired that work for us now. And I'm really proud of that number. 2 of them are out of this program. What that tells me is young people come and see this and they're like, that's cool, I want to be a part of it. That makes me super proud because it's almost like being a parent. You're like, gosh, are people going to like us? Am I any good at this? And then they say, gosh, this is a nice place to be. So that number is important to me. 12. 12 is an important number. Every person in our company gets to crack open the books and see how we're doing, how our revenues are, how our expenses are we on target. We do that once a month with everybody in the company. It's no secret. If we're going to have a bad year, everybody knows they can see it coming. If we're going to have a great year, everybody sees it coming. Why? Because this company isn't about me. It's about everyone on the team saying, I am as important to make this company successful as everyone else. So therefore, when numbers start to go down, it's not that somebody isn't taking care of this client or this isn't happening. We all look around and say, how do we collectively do a better job so that we can turn this around and get those numbers up? So 12 times a year, everyone has full access to pull open the covers and look at how the company's doing. And 100, that's the last number I'll share. 100 is an important number to me. It's a goal right now. We have 2 around that. One is we're going to celebrate really hard when we have a combined 100 years of Vivayic experience, meaning people have worked with us and we can add it all up and it's to 100. That's one of our goals. And that's twofold. One is that means that we have people who stay and love it. And secondfold, it means that we're growing gradually. But the more important 100 number is 100 years. And this came from one of my mentors, a company out of Chicago, who was very clear, very direct. He's like, we're building a 100-year company. Every decision we make is about, will this help us more likely to be a 100-year company, or will this put us at risk at not being a 100-year company? Because then decisions go way beyond my personality, my hopes and dreams, but are we making decisions that are going to propel long-term success? And when you can hold on to a 100-year perspective, man, it gives you such a peace of mind about the kinds of decisions you make. So, takeaway, figure out the numbers that are important to you and track those things so that when people say, how's your business doing? Are you growing? Well, yeah, we're growing, but you know what's more important? Our employees are really engaged. Our clients love us. That's important to me. All right, number 3, your number one job, in my opinion, as the founder, owner, leader of your company is blank. Here's a hint. I gave you the answer at the beginning. It's all about the... What is it? Hold it up. Your number one job is, in my opinion, culture. Culture. We hired 6 people last year. All of a sudden, we've gone from like a small shop where I kind of know everything that's going on to we have people doing projects. I didn't know we had projects. And it's a little disconcerting because for 9 years, it's like you dig this thing out of a hole, like you carry it, you nurture it, you every day you wake up in the middle of the night sweating about it, and then all of a sudden you get to a place where you're like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. How can I make sure we're going to be okay if I don't know what's going on? If I'm not touching every project, if I'm not in every conversation, I can't anymore. So my job has shifted from being the guy with all the ideas, because lo and behold, there are people on my team who have great ideas, sometimes even better than me. Being the guy who has the processes or plan to figure it out, because there's a lot of people on the team who are much better planners than I am. And what is my job becoming? I take care of big relationships, but the most important thing I take care of is our culture. It is absolutely essential that we hire correctly, we fire when we don't hire correctly, we take care of people in a way that aligns to our culture, we incentivize people for success in a way that aligns to our culture. We hold people accountable in a way that aligns to our culture. Because when things don't line up is when people get discouraged. When they say, you talk about this being important, but then this person got this and I get something else because you're judging us on a different set of values. Man, that makes people check out. So your job as the leader of the organization is to always be mindful of your organization and saying, if these are our values, and this is the kind of place I want this to be in the world, I got to be mindful of all the stuff we're doing continues to align to that. Because guess what? It's pretty easy to start to slide in other directions. And so I'm gonna, and this is where the small giants thing, and those of you who had a chance to come to the summit, and if you didn't, read the book, find people like Paul Spiegelman or Tom Walters. This idea about the leader of culture is, I think, one of the most important things, and the things that we don't talk about how important it is about getting the people part of our businesses right so that they can help us actualize our dreams, our passions, and what we want to see out there in the world. So thanks for playing along with the quiz. Again, I so appreciate being a part of this evening. I wanted to leave with a final kind of a story metaphor. When I was in college, I took advantage of an opportunity to jump on a mission trip into Kenya, and I'm so glad I did. It was good for me. Growing up in, I don't know if you've ever been through Bartlett, doesn't take long. It's a pretty small world. So I'm so thankful for FFA, for expanding my world, and for other things. It just helped me see a bigger perspective. But I remember very clearly, we were on a construction mission, and we showed up on a Saturday. We stayed in this kind of hostel thing. We go to church first thing on Sunday morning, and after the service, and our construction project was to build like a training center, a conference center, so they could host classes, things like that. And so when we were literally there with shovels and mix concrete and lay block, all that kind of stuff. After church, we go out, and the pastor brings everybody out. It's a big celebration, and it comes to they had the hole dug where the foundation, we were going to work on the footers the next day. And the pastor said very clearly, we want to thank our friends from America who've come to help us make this building a reality. That we're so excited that this is actually, that we have this to celebrate this building. And I remember thinking, there's a hole. We don't have a building, and we're just gonna pour footers and do the foundation work. They probably got 2 years before the building's done. And so we get back and I talk to our group leader. I'm like, what did he mean about getting the building done? We're only here for 2 weeks. We're gonna have some footers and we're gonna have some foundation. And he goes, well, he said, in their culture, it's when you make the commitment to do something, when people show up to start, that's when you talk about it being real. And I'm like, that's such a different mindset, because in America, real is only when it's done. When we do the ribbon cutting, we show it off. And I think about that here, and about you all are tremendously successful entrepreneurs, not because of the businesses that you have built, but because you have taken the time and you've shown up and made the commitment to start to build. And you may have a wildly successful business in 6 months, or maybe 16 years before you make the leap. Whenever it is, know that the venture that you create is something that you wanted to see happen in the world, and that that you take care of it in a way that honors the best of who you are. And that would honor the person sitting right here and honor the people who are part of this experience. So thank you all very much for letting me be a part of this evening. Congratulations, seniors.
We will have a short time if you have questions to ask Seth. And if you have a question, please stand up, and Tony will pass around the mic to you. So we ask that you speak into the mic to ask your question.
I always see it as a sign, as I've answered every question. I've done such a good job. Really, there's no question left to ask. I take it as a compliment. Yeah. Attention. Woohoo! I never did get to it. Thank you. So one of our mentors was a couple. He was a part of National Car Rental. He was their first chief technology officer when they were an itty-bitty car rental company, and then they got big, and then they got bought. Became a multi-millionaire. He's on faculty at University of Minnesota. Anyway, friend of a mutual friend, and he's meeting with us as we're talking about our initial business idea. And he's kind of coaching us. He's the one, rice and beans, beans and rice. He and his wife are from India, so that, saying has a special meaning. But his wife is a trained linguist, and she's this beautiful, wonderful woman, and she's hearing us go on and on about what we aspire to do, what's our passion. And she goes, there's a word in Sanskrit. A linguist is somebody who studies language, and Sanskrit is an ancient language in India. She's like, there's a word in Sanskrit, Vivayic, which, loosely translated means wisdom that comes from the experience, not the kind of wisdom that comes out of books. She's like, that's what I think you guys should call yourself. And we're like, awesome. So we picked a name no one can say, no one can spell, but at least the URL was available. So, that's where the name came from. It has a very cool meaning, but I've gotten very good at saying Victor, Igloo, Victor, Apple, Yellow, Igloo, Cat. That's how you spell Vivayic. Because they're like, V-I what? No, just Victor, Igloo, Victor, Apple, Yellow, Igloo, Cat. So anyway, thanks. Choose your name wisely. Moral of the story. Other questions? All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Seth, for sharing Vivayic's story with us. As a program, we've had the opportunity to connect with Vivayic and with Seth over the past few years, and it's a relationship that we really appreciate and enjoy, and we're glad to have him here tonight. And we were going to have Paul come up and give you a medal, Seth, if we can talk you into coming back up here.
Paul's also going to say a few words on behalf of the program.
My wife would probably say yes.
Oh my goodness. The time is getting on. I don't know if you have to come from Amarillo, Texas, you got to get up about 3:30 in the morning. So I'm going to make this extremely brief, but here again I want to thank Tom Field and Michelle and Dave Lamb and all the other people that were involved here. And it's pretty obvious that there were a lot of people involved. And I'm particularly impressed with the presentations here, and they're very professionally done. You'll all be very, very proud of them. And you parents, my goodness, talk about somebody that should be proud. I mean, I can't think of any group of people that should be more proud than the parents of the individuals that we've seen here, tonight. It's great. I'm very pleased with the progress that we've made with the program. It's outstanding the job that is done here in recruiting and getting the class, of people that were participating in the program. It's just outstanding as far as picking it out. There was a recent supplement to the New York Times Sunday paper, actually last Sunday, a supplement they call it the launch. It was an extremely interesting supplement because it was all built around, what happens, when these young boys and our young men and women, graduate from college, and where do they go, different patterns, and so on and so forth. And they classified that group, those graduating seniors, as sprint, run. Wanderers is another group, and then the third is the stragglers. I don't think you get into a lot of explanation on the difference, in those three groups, but it's pretty clear, who you kind of think the sprinters are, what the definition of them. They're up early in the morning and they're getting going. And I mean to tell you, what I saw tonight and have seen in the past, we got our bucket full of sprinters, and I'm so grateful, and it's a highlight for me to be with you. The other thing, we're going to see a good many of you down in Amarillo next month, and hope to get a little better acquainted with you. And for goodness sakes, don't hesitate if there's something that you think that Paul can help you with. Don't hesitate to drop me a line. In fact, I do get some requests every once in a while, and you kind of feel kind of good, when you get one of those that maybe you are worth a damn, and the whole thing. So well, thank you so much, and everyone. Are we winding up now? Yeah, we're going to say a couple. I was going to tell everybody to drive home safely, but you can save that for a little bit later. But once again, folks, thanks so much. Appreciate it.